What can you tell us about Robinson? Just getting a few more bits settled here. We've mentioned Manny Pacquiao, of course, the last fight in, well, not notable fight in Las Vegas, but big welterweight fight was, of course, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. We're here all of the years later for Terence Crawford versus Errol Spence. Straight off the bat, Freddie, how do you see the main event playing out on Saturday?
It's a great main event. I mean, these are two of the best fighters going at it, and I do like Crawford in the main event, and I think he's a smarter boxer and maybe a better boxer. But Spence is probably the better puncher. And if he lands that big heavy shot, because he loads up with it, he can turn this around. But I do like him, the boxer in this fight, and I think he's a little bit too much thought for him.
Errol Spence, a lot of people have talked about his inactivity over recent years. How important do you think that might be on Saturday night?
That's very important. And the thing is, he's not as sharp when when you're not active. And activity is like the best thing in the world for fighters. And this is all I do is try to get my fighters to fight at least 6, 8, 10 times a day. Nowadays, if you get a contract for 3 fights, you're doing well. I mean, it's a different game from when I was doing that. I think my first year pro, I fought 11 times.
Don't make him like you anymore, Freddie. One of the things that's been talked about coming into this fight is where the winner would land on the mythical pound-for-pound list. Now, you, of course, trained a former pound-for-pound number one in Manny Pacquiao. Does the winner of Spence-Crawford, in your opinion, become the number one fighter in the world?
They do reach a really, really high level. Maybe, Sugar Ray Leonard and those guys, it's really hard for them to bypass them. But it's getting close, though. I'm thinking. But in the winner of this fight is gonna be in a very good seat.
I mentioned earlier about the great nights that you've had here with Manny Pacquiao. Is there one in particular performance in Las Vegas from Manny that you look back on with fond memories?
A lot of memories, a lot of because we're based in Vegas in that time, and I mean even in the gym we had great performances. Pacquiao is a machine, and that's why he did so well because he worked so hard. I mean, fighters don't work like that today. He worked 48 rounds a day. I mean, every day. I mean, 48 rounds. Just let's go, and that was with sparring included. But Pacquiao was a machine.
Now, I haven't been to Wildcard in quite a while. It seems like every time I bump into you, I probably bump into you maybe once every 6 months or so. And you're looking younger every time I see you. But what's going on with Wildcard? Every time I go in there, it's always packed. You've got fighters coming in and out. And how many you got on the roster at the minute?
I have 16 pros in my pro roster right now, and they're all good guys coming up. And that's why Crawford's doing so well because he has such good sparring partners, and it works out well. And I'm working with a lot of fighters. I work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day, and that's what I love.
Keeps you young, Freddie, right?
It does. He's young, and I get a haircut once in a while, and that helps out. That helps too.
Okay, Freddie, look, I'm not going to take up too much of your time because I know you're a man in demand. I do appreciate you stopping by and speaking to Boxing News today. But before I let you go, I'm going to ask for 2 predictions. First, of course, your man, Giovanni Cabrera. You're going to be backing him to get the job done. How does he go against Isaac Cruz this weekend?
It's a very difficult fight, but I think he's ready and he is awkward. And I don't know if Cruz can really figure him out. He's really hard to figure out. Sometimes I have trouble figuring him out.
And then finally, we've touched upon it, the main event, Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford for all the marbles in the welterweight division. How does that one play out?
I like Terence Crawford. I think he's just a little more clever and he thinks through it. He'll decide the fight he's going to fight in this first or second round. And he might turn southpaw, might turn right, and so forth. But that's just a little, I think, game he plays with his opponents. But once he takes over, I think he will outpoint his opponent.
Okay, well, there you have it. Freddie Roach there. Thanks very much, Freddie, for stopping by and speaking to Boxing News. Always a pleasure to catch up with you. And before I let you go, congratulations on your recent marriage to your wonderful wife, Marie, over there. So thanks very much for stopping by.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So there we have it. Freddie Roach. Freddie, I'm going to let you go now and hopefully catch up with you soon. the legend stopping by to say hello on Boxing News here from the Spence-Crawford media tent in Las Vegas. I'm going to be vamping for a little bit. Thanks so much, Freddie. Thank you. I'm going to be vamping for a little bit here while we kind of circle around and maybe grab a few more guests. So if you've got any questions for me, I'm not really sure what I can tell you that certainly Freddie Roach can't, but fire those questions away and we'll do what we can. Going to be a busy day here in Las Vegas as we gear up to Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, the press conference, the first time that they would have met face to face in fight week here in Sin City. I think I'm going to be joined now by the one and only Alan Dawson, the adopted Las Vegas reporter, our finest export into the USA of recent times. Alan, thanks very much for joining us here on Boxing News, a live edition of the boxing show from the Spence-Crawford tent. How are you, mate?
Oh, I appreciate that introduction. I'm great. You know, so it was great to see a bit of a UK reunion here when you arrived earlier in the week. I don't think it really gets bigger than this. I've covered some really big shows in Vegas, both for the UFC and in boxing, but it really feels this year is different. It kicked off for me, Benavidez and Plant. That whole event was just awesome. One of the best events I've seen live. You know, it's full of like 15,000 screaming Arizona and Hispanic fans baying for David Plant's blood, which surprised me because he's used this city as a, you know, like you were saying with me, like an adopted city, and he was the away fighter, really. You know, and then we had Davis Garcia, Haney Lomachenko, Spence-Crawford, like the event of the summer. But then, you know, it might be short-lived depending on how Jamel Charlo and Canelo fare, because I think Jamel was even saying at the workout yesterday that, you know, his show is going to be bigger than this one, and Errol Spence was only 5 feet away. But yeah, it's just a great time to be involved in boxing in America, but particularly in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. Well, there we have it. Straight away from Alan Dawson gives us the prime cut of his response. You mentioned there about all of the events that we've had going around, and it is a great year for boxing heavyweights aside. There will be absolutely no heavyweight chat here on the boxing show ahead of Spence-Crawford because we just don't have the time. But it seems as though boxing is not back because it never went anywhere, but thriving at the minute. With that being said, where does the buzz, the hype-ometer, so to speak, for Spence-Crawford compared to some of those other fights you've discussed?
I think it's like different, I wouldn't say fan bases within boxing or local sports, but this show has definitely captivated the attention of the city in Vegas. Just speaking to my neighbors, them speaking to me, you know, and bringing up Spence-Crawford, people who work on the strip, you know, people I play golf with, everyone knows this event is happening, and it's on a par with like, you know, when the F1 will come into town, everyone talks about that. Whenever the Super Bowl is coming here next year, people talk about that. But Spence-Crawford, this is the Super Bowl for boxing, and I feel locally, you know, people are aware of that aren't even involved in boxing, whether they're performers on the strip or just generally in the you know, catering industry or working here anyway. I'm not sure I had that definitely not with David Benavidez, with the Benavidez and Plant show. Davis Garcia was a bit of a unicorn as well, I think, but I feel like those fan bases that tuned into that show were younger, and I feel like the people that might tune into this fight might be a little bit older. So I'm not sure if that will, but you know, how that could bode well on the box office sales, because if you're a younger fan, maybe you're more likely to have a fight party and split the cost of the pay-per-view in America. If it's I can't remember what the price point for the Davis Garcia one was, but let's say it's $80. You know, if there's 8 of you, just pay $10 each, and you know, somebody brings the beers on, you know, and the chicken wings or whatever. But yeah, this show's $85, and I'm not. If the over and under is $1 million, I'm not sure which way I would go. I could easily see it catching fire because, and just speaking to people involved in the promotion as well. I feel like a good barometer of the super fights is when you get the celebrity attention, when you get attention from other sports, particularly when there's no NFL right now because they're in off season or whatever, and so there are going to be, you know, Errol Spence has friends, you know, that are in you know, football in his state in Texas. He's popular there, and depending on what sort of you know, ringside celebrity we'll see, you know, I feel like we could see, you know, like we saw in Davis Garcia, people dressed up really nicely, you know, coming in from Hollywood, coming in from other sports, and I think that just shows what you know, how much it's transcended beyond just your run-of-the-mill boxing show, which Benavidez Plant was. That was for the hardcores, and it still sold well. I think it, you know, got more than 200,000 sales. If this can even get more than 800,000, it's a home run in this market. I don't think UFC touches those numbers, but I think it will go higher than that, and it should do, because you know, these guys are both undefeated. they're still in their primes, really. Crawford is a master of his craft. Spence is a masterful inside boxer, and it just depends who can impose their style and I guess outlast the other one. And that's kind of what captivates the attention of not just the boxing public, but everyone else. When the best fight the best, everyone kind of resonates to that, and when boxing gets it right, I've said it before on other platforms, there's nothing like it in any sport. And this is why we're here, and you don't want to miss it, because how often do these things really happen? People are saying this fight was too late. Potentially, maybe they could have thought this could have been the second time they fight, but we've got it now, and I'd imagine it's going to be close, and we'll probably get it again later in the year or early next year.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there about kind of Davis Garcia. It felt like it sort of lit the touch paper a little bit for some of these big fights. I spoke to Stephen Espinosa yesterday from Showtime, and he said that it's kind of a case of fighters not wanting to feel left out, I suppose, and they kind of see all of their contemporaries up in lights and doing big numbers and getting the adulation of all of the fans. And I actually fancy a bit of that myself. So I think Davis Garcia was a good little tipping point for these big fights to happen. Let's talk about the fight itself. Straight off the bat, who are you leaning towards and why?
I feel like I'm kind of edging towards Terence Crawford, but it's only a slight edge. And I feel like I could easily switch to the other way depending on what we see at the weigh-in. So last week, I thought Errol Spence looked phenomenal. He definitely did not look a 147 guy. And I remember even going back to December when his protege and stablemate Frank Martin was fighting Michelle Rivera at the Cosmopolitan here, really nice resort. And Spence looked like a 160 guy, 168. He is a big guy outside of camp, and he looked big even last week at his workout. So I'm curious, like he definitely looked different when we saw him yesterday. So I'm curious how his cut is going, and if he looks fine at the weigh-in, and seeing how Crawford is looking, it could easily sway it. So sometimes in fights as close as these, they come down to the tangibles and whether the fight could be won, even before the opening bell. I edge Crawford, but nothing would surprise me. And I know that's a real fence-sitting response.
I don't think there is a kind of definitive answer. I think if anybody told you they were 100% kind of set on one way, I think, with all due respect, they're probably telling porky pies, Alan. But I think that you make a good point about the weight, and it's a question that we've got here already about the weight. Errol Spence has kind of already said this week that he feels like he's outgrown 147 pounds. So it's not the ideal thing that you want to hear in the build up to such a big fight when you are big at the weight and you have campaigned at 147 for your whole career. Terence Crawford now, I think, has kind of grown into the weight as well. I think he's now a fully fledged welterweight as opposed to the Crawford that moved up when he boxed Jeff Horn and those earlier fights at 147. I still feel like he was kind of settling into the weight, but I think he's there now. So it's going to be a very, very interesting one. Anything that tickles your fancy on the undercard? Just had Freddie Roach here, who's got Giovanni Cabrera in from Freddie Roach's own admission, a very tough fight against Isaac Cruz, who has seemed to build his own little fan base and become something of a cult figure here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely interested in that fight. Isaac Cruz is like, I mean, he particularly came on, my team when I saw him against Gervonta Davis, and he just seemed, of all that, that meme where he's got that dog in him, that to me is Isaac Cruz. If you did an X-ray on him, he'd have a pit bull inside his lungs. So I'm curious about him. I feel like PBC in particular are really interested and invested in him. I feel like they think he's, quite a few fights in front of Frank Martin. So in terms of their lightweight landscape as well, if Isaac keeps winning, maybe we could see the Gervonta Davis rematch. I feel like he'd have to do something very special, not just in this fight, but in another one against someone, reputable at the top level. But yeah, that's definitely a fight to watch for me.
Yeah, Isaac Cruz is kind of there or thereabouts at lightweight. I know that the WBC, along with a lot of the other sanctioning bodies, like to order fights that realistically don't have much chance of ever happening. I know when they ordered Shakur Stevenson, that was a fight that initially was like, oh, that would be a good fight. And then you realise a split second later, it's not going to happen. So yeah, an interesting one there. But anyway, Alan, we're going to have to try and kind of move things along a little bit. But before we let you go, tell everybody what you're up to, where we can find your work. Obviously, you are now the big man of Las Vegas. So just tell us where we can find your work.
So I've gone independent. So I left Insider, Business Insider. I was there for 7 years. I left them a couple of months ago, and yeah, I'm reporting for ProBox TV. I'm reporting for Fight Hype, and I'm in discussions with a few other kind of legacy brands as well. So I'm looking to maybe get about 4 clients. I'm already halfway there, and yeah, we should be looking to wrap things up in the next 2 weeks to make a decent announcement there. But yeah, you can find me around. I've got my own Twitter account, Alan Dawson Sport. I'm not sure how long Twitter's going to be around for. Oh, it's already dead, isn't it? Actually, it's now X.
X.
Yeah.
X going to give it to you.
So, but I've got the same account, same handle on other accounts as well. You can find me there.
Okay, there you have it. Alan Dawson, the main man here in Sin City. Thanks very much for stopping
Appreciate
by
you, Rob.
on the boxing show. I'll catch up with you later. He's going to take me to the Bellagio and show me
Yes, sir.
all of the hot spots in Las Vegas. Yeah, so I'm going to vamp for a little bit longer while Ben, our esteemed, I don't know, I hate to call him the cameraman because he does so much more than that. But Ben's going to, I think, run around and grab some people. We've got Tris Dixon knocking about. Dan Matthews, I saw earlier on from the Daily Mail in New York. Sean Porter's going to come on next, so we'll wait for. I think we can grab. We can grab Tris if he doesn't mind jumping on. We've already taken up plenty of Tris Dixon's time. For those who jumped on with us yesterday and saw our breakdown, we've got. I think Ben's trying to twist Tris's arm at the minute. We'll only need Tris for 2 minutes. As I said, I think I've taken up enough of his time here in Las Vegas already this week. But here he is, generous with his time as ever, Tris Dixon, after me taking up an hour of his time yesterday. It's joining us.
Crawford. It's always been Crawford. Yesterday I was lying. Today I'm telling the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it has been one of those fights, hasn't it? We spoke about it yesterday, and that's available now. Our full breakdown of Spence-Crawford on the Boxing News YouTube channel, as well as our Fulton Inouye review. But have you had any changes of heart overnight?
No, do you know what? I might have even doubled down a little bit on Spence, but I don't know. I mean, the interesting thing is the weight thing. Like I'm starting to find that more interesting, but I don't know if I'm trying to make it more interesting than it actually needs to be. But the speculation that Errol's finding it tough, and it's only speculation. I don't know. There's that, and the fact that he's obviously talking about going to 154. Yeah. You know, but then if he was staying at 147, apart from boots, which is probably high risk, pretty low reward, what's the point? So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, still more questions that we need the answers to that we won't get before the fight.
No, we won't. I think I've just had this conversation with Alan, who was just on before us, about the weight, and mentioning that Errol Spence has already kind of alluded to the fact that this will more than likely, if not definitely, be his last fight at 147, taking the rematch if indeed the rematch happens, which I think we do expect it to.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm questioning that, you know, because Terence was talking about retirement and Errol's talking about moving up in weight. So I'm not sure even a rematch is as nailed on as people are talking about it. You know, you'd like to think it is, but if Errol can't do 147 anymore and Crawford wants to, is he going to follow him up to 154? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? And then it won't be for any titles.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, 154, if they're going to go to 154, it's going to probably, the belts you would imagine will fracture after Jamel Charlo boxes Canelo Alvarez, so maybe they can have a fight for a vacant belt,
nominal vacant belt, yeah,
and
possibly,
then they can
make
meet
it
down
work
the line
that
for
way.
Unification potentially, and try and make it a little bit of a bigger fight.
I don't know. I just think, you know, it just
seems, we're already talking about the rematch.
Yeah, it just seems awfully presumptuous to think it's going to be smooth sailing to get two fights 6 months apart or whatever, and everything's going to be just fine when one's talking about retirement and the other one's talked about moving up in weight. I'm not sure it's as nailed on as we'd like it to be.
Yeah, as I say, like London buses. I think we waited 5 or 6 years for the first one, and I think it's folly to expect another one to follow so quickly.
Well, as long as it delivers, I don't mind how many times we get it, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had Freddie in here. I spoke to Freddie about Manny Pacquiao, and it was somebody that we spoke about yesterday. Some of your fine nights here watching the great man. What was the best performance from Manny that you saw in Las Vegas? It's tough because we went through a few yesterday, but I didn't put you on the spot, so I'm going to do that now.
So probably 50-50. I mean, when he took out Cotto, and also then, you know, beating De La Hoya, which was the changing of the guard, those two, and maybe his best performance, and I actually went with the late Ron Lewis, was to Manny's post-fight party at the Mandalay Bay, where he sang with a fedora and a bandage over his battered ear, and he sang like people were paying like $10 or $20 for a ticket to go and watch him sing. Pretty badly, but still far better than I could ever sing. That was a hell of a performance. But yeah, it would probably be down to those two. By the way, one thing I didn't say yesterday was the amount of Mayweather fights I covered here without actually doing Mayweather-Pacquiao. But, you know, the Mayweather years here were pretty spectacular. Cotto, Robert Guerrero, Canelo, Maidana, like, and it's when you look at Maidana and Cotto, like, good fights as well. Like, people think, oh yeah, he's a stylist, he never got hit. Like, they were wars.
Yeah.
So yeah, but in terms of Manny, just magical stuff, because you kind of, going in against Oscar and then going in against Cotto, each time you're like, oh, it's a bridge too far, and then wallop.
Wallop indeed. Why didn't you do Mayweather Pacquiao?
Real simple question. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I left Boxing News. One of the many reasons. I was fed up. I mean, I'd been writing about the fight for 6 years, and it never happened. And then by the time it came, I was like, I'm done. And the fight was exactly, when it happened, it was exactly how I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
Shoulder injury or not for Manny, and so I was like, I'm out. And it lost its momentum. I was one of the 4.2 million. I was one of the rest of the world, not in the 4.2 million that paid for it. But yeah, it was what it was. But yeah, that's why I was sort of done by that point. I mean, it's strange because commercially you could never say that wasn't a success. It was huge. And all the people behind it and all the money makers, promoters, managers, network execs will say they got the timing just right because it was a financial bonanza. But from a sporting perspective, it was like 5 or 6 years too late. And, Manny had been wiped out by Marquez, and he'd failed to dazzle so much like in the last few years. And he was far more impotent than he had been a few years earlier. And by the time it came, it was like, well, what's he got left?
Do you think that there would have been a potential for the fight? I mean, I think the fight would have probably been certainly more competitive, and Manny still having that explosiveness, and it happened in sort of, I don't know, 2010 when it was kind of heavily hyped. I think after that it started to kind of be that countdown where, as you mentioned yesterday, the banana started to brown.
Even after that Cotto fight, when he didn't get rid of Margarito, he didn't get rid of Mosley, and then there was a Marquez fight, and then it was a long time off, and he came back against Rios in Macau, and he needed that long layoff. But like the shine was off. And that Manny force of nature that had blitzed people from David Diaz all the way up was no more.
Mayweather wise, which was your favorite Mayweather performance that you went to see?
Probably Canelo. And I mean, again, that was one of the reasons why I left when I did and had that sort of sabbatical, was when the CJ Ross card was read out. I'm like, I can't justify that. I've got to somehow now go back and write an editorial saying someone's seen this fight as a draw. Whereas I had a shutout, 120 to 108, and not even a close round. And when that CJ Ross card was announced, it was like, it just, your heart just sank through the floor, and you're thinking, what the hell? Like, who is this? Like, what have they been watching?
Got a question just coming here from Dr. Draycott. Hello, Doctor. How important is a faster start than usual for Terence Crawford?
Yeah, I think, as we talked about yesterday, I think it's really crucial, because you can't take it for granted that he's gonna jump on Errol and get him out there late. So you can't give away 4 of the 6 early rounds. Like, you've got to start getting something in the bank early. Crucial. And I think, one of the things, the only thing I've got from the fighter, the little bits of fighter stuff that we've seen this week that's been fed to us, is that they've both basically reinforced the feeling, and we didn't say this yesterday, but if one of them really goes for it, I think the other one's going to try and match them. And, very exciting when you do start to think Hagler Hearns.
Yeah.
And I know obviously that was a middleweight, but it's very exciting because they are those sort of characters where Spence will be like, this is what I've got. And Crawford's like, all right, I've got better than that. And they're going to come, and they could just let it fly.
It's that alpha mentality, isn't it? And that's part of the big part of the reason why this is such a great event for boxing fans.
And it's why they're here.
Yeah,
it's why they're here.
Yeah.
They've literally, it's a literal mano a mano, throw the gauntlet down, let's have it. And that's why it got down to these two phoning each other to sort the fight out. Let's see where we're at.
Okay, we've Pidge has asked about how does the winner usurp Inoue. We spoke about that yesterday. Don't forget, you can check out the full sit down that I did with Tris yesterday on Boxing News. How much do we know about EJ's facial injuries from the crash? He was looking for his teeth versus Ugas.
I got one more. I've got to get over there.
That's it. Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know. There's the two crashes and there's the retina. I mean, it's not good, is it? But like, obviously he would have had numerous chats, and got numerous checkups and gone through different commission protocols and that kind of stuff. So you'd like to think he's going to be absolutely fine because they wouldn't be letting him fight, right? You'd like to think so.
Yeah, and they have access to the absolute best with regards to doctors and people.
Yeah, I
advising
mean,
them.
I know there's lip service in saying that. Like, you'd like to think, and that's definitely what you'd like to think. Like, professionals wouldn't put him in harm's way if he wasn't okay to go ahead.
Absolutely. Right, Tris, I've taken up more than enough of your time.
No
Thank you
worries.
so much
Thanks,
for
Rob.
stopping by.
Cheers.
And we'll catch up soon.
Thanks,
Tris
mate.
Dixon, everybody know about Tris Dixon. Boxing Live Stories, the main man. Check him out across all socials and all of your podcast outlets. Going to be vamping for a little while longer while we hopefully get somebody else to join us here on the Boxing Show. Don't forget to please hit that like button. If you want this to be seen by lots and lots of people, please hit the like button. Get the questions in. We'll do what we can to answer them while we'll wait for another guest. It's starting to fill up here in the media tent. Thankfully, sorry. Yeah, we could. Mark Abrams would be great. Sorry, Ben is just going to run off and grab some people for us to talk to. So yeah, don't forget to get your questions in, and I will do whatever I can to get them answered for you. Bruce Wayne, love the podcast. Fan from India. Shout out India every time. EJ and 9, yeah, a lot of people. I wouldn't be really surprised how this fight goes. I could see a stoppage win for either guy. I could see a decision win for either guy. I think the only thing that would surprise me would be if the fight went early, to be honest. What did you have for breakfast, Rob? Says John Cahill. I actually haven't had breakfast today. I didn't have breakfast yesterday either. I had a cup of coffee this morning was my breakfast. But I'm joined by the main man himself, Mark Abrams. If you don't know about Mark Abrams, then get to know one of the best boxing people across the whole boxing landscape. But as we are here in Las Vegas, talk to me about the fight, Mark.
Well, first of all, you're making me blush here. Jeez. What an intro. Oh, wow. I can't wait for this fight. I've been saying for, since it was made or before it was made, this is the best possible fight I think you can make in the sport in terms of reasonable guys in their weight class. I know everyone wants people to move, like they're already talking this nonsense about Inoue and Gervonta Davis. This is the best possible fight you can make in the sport.
I absolutely agree. There was that period of time. It's very annoying. Our boxing fans, as you will know better than me, are very fickle. And we had a 3-month period of people going, you know what? I don't even want to see it anymore. And you're like, oh, come on, man.
Remember all the people after 2 years, I don't care if Mayweather and Pacquiao fight, that was after like 2 years of, Pacquiao's and like needles and all that craziness that went on. Yeah, 4.5 million buys later, I think they were still interested. Yeah, and I think they're still interested in this.
Absolutely, and I think it's got to the stage now where this is, I don't want to say the last point in which it could have happened before we maybe started to see, because that's one of the things that Mayweather Pacquiao did have. We saw Manny Pacquiao knocked out. We saw Manny Pacquiao not really have that kind of same zeal and energy in his work that he had in earlier years. But it's, despite Spence having his issues outside of the ring, I thought it was arguably a career best performance against your Dennis Ugas. These are still two prime guys.
And that was a fight that, some people thought, Ugas can give him some trouble. Didn't do it. Neither of these guys have blemishes anywhere. Crawford in a couple fights early in a couple fights, but that's what makes Crawford so great, I think. I think that might be a difference in the fight. Crawford has 2 things I think he's the best in the sport at. Number one, he's the best. He loses a couple rounds to Kavalishkis, loses a couple rounds early to Porter. He's the best guy. Okay. He's like a football coach here. They go into halftime. This is what we got to do to change. Him and Bomax, for whatever reason, they're able to flip the script just like that. They see what, I see Porter right in front of us. This is what we're going to do. And also, he's the best finisher in this game. So if Spence is rocked even a little bit, Crawford is like, he's like a pit bull to stake. When he sees the guy's hurt, that's a wrap.
Yeah, they have that ability, don't they? Those elite fighters to just kick it into that next level, and that's what we saw in the Sean Porter fight, wasn't it? From Terence Crawford?
It's unbelievable. Again, I'm not comparing Crawford to Mayweather. Mayweather, again, he was like Crawford's like Mayweather in the sense that, I hate using this, collecting the data early, and then round 3, round 4, round 5, he turns the tables. What Crawford has, a guy like Mayweather didn't have. He's an animal as a finisher. So, I mean, it's going to be And that's the difference in the fight, in my opinion. Would I be surprised if Spence wins? No. I mean, look at the odds, minus 140 or 130. So it's basically a pick 'em fight, which is another thing that we don't see often in the world of boxing. An elite fight where people can actually bet on, you know what I mean? And I'm not advocating people to bet, but I'm saying, we see a lot of these fights, minus 500, minus 550, minus 800. You're basically just betting straight up in this fight.
No, absolutely. And I think, despite Crawford, I think is a very, very slight favourite, but it is a 50-50 fight.
Exactly.
Anything is really in play in this fight. Just want to go back to what you said there about Crawford in the early rounds. He likes to have a look. He likes to assess his opponent. Errol Spence is a big, busy, active southpaw. Does Crawford need to be wary of giving too many rounds away in this fight?
Yeah, well, I think so, but I think he will start. Okay, if it plays out like Errol comes out and he, like you said, throwing 70, 75, 80 punches around and maybe takes the first couple rounds. I think maybe, towards the end of round 2, maybe round 3, Crawford's going to figure out this is what this guy's trying to do, and this is how we're going to circumvent that and get back into the fight.
We've had questions in here and people discussing the trainers in this fight. Of course, both guys have taken them right the way through. Derek James for Errol Spence and Bomac for Terence Crawford. How pivotal could the trainers be in this fight? Such a big fight can be decided on the slenderest of margins. Could that be what we see from them in the corner?
Yeah, no, I think, despite what, Derek winning the fight trainer of the year last year, I mean, I don't think Brian McIntyre takes a backseat to anybody. I mean, I really don't. He's a very underrated trainer, in the sense that, he's taking this kid from nothing. We see a lot of these guys, and Derek with Errol as well. But this is his sole purpose. I mean, he's got Steven Nelson, a couple other guys in the gym, and Keyshawn Davis, and some other guys like that. But I mean, this is this might be Brian McIntyre's crowning moment. So I think. And then they just jive so well together, him and Terence. So I think it's even. If you want to give a slight edge to Derek because maybe Errol's been in a couple more bigger fights, so be it. But I don't think there's much of a difference.
Okay, Mark, before we let you go, because I appreciate you're a very busy man and we are going to be getting started over at the press conference shortly. Tell us some Vegas stories. You've been coming to Las Vegas for a long time, much longer than I. Any in particular Vegas story that stands out for you?
There's some I can't tell on the show.
Keep it clean,
I just remember, okay, so we're in this tent here, Mayweather-Pacquiao. This tent was packed all week. They had a tent just like this outside the MGM Grand. And I don't know what they're doing for Saturday night, but, there was so much media here for that fight, CNN, and I would say a good 150, 200 people watched the fight in the tent that night. I mean, that's immediately when I think of this week, that's what I think of.
Big fight here in Las Vegas. That's why we've got the big name guest, Mr. Mark Abrams. Check him out on all social media platforms.
Before I let you go, I want to congratulate you and your team for everything that you guys have accomplished in such a short amount of time. And I know the collaboration with Boxing News, that's awesome. And I want to congratulate you in all that and continued success.
Thank you so much, Mark. It means a lot, particularly coming from someone like yourself. So enjoy the rest of the week. I'm sure
you
will,
guys.
And we'll catch up with you ahead of the
Thanks,
fight.
Rob. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mark. There we have it. Mark Abrams bringing you the legends here in the media room for Spence-Crawford. Just having a little mini scan. There's only 2 of us here. So we're going to try. Yeah, Ben, just grab anybody. Cynthia Conte. So we're expecting Cynthia shortly. The media room is starting to fill up now, but we've got to try and grab people before everybody else grabs them, unfortunately. But if you have any questions for me while I vamp here and do my best Ray Flores impression and talk to fill the gaps, then don't be shy and shoot me a question. Big man Rob, very big, unfortunately. I've run out of black T-shirts as well, so I'm looking wham today. What time's the press conference today for the fight? The press conference starts in about an hour. We'll be leaving in about half an hour, unfortunately, because we have to dive out and there is only 2 of us, so we will have to go and film the press conference. We'll be back. We'll be live here on Boxing News, so you're welcome to join us afterwards. Jim McDonald boxing, big up Jim McDonald. Outside of the heavyweights, are there any other mega fights like this? Beterbiev, Bivol, Benavidez, Canelo, Davis, Haney. Nothing comes close to this. For me, Pidge, big up Pidge every time. Big supporter of the channel for a long time. No, is my answer. I don't think so. I think these guys have got the years on them in a sense of the accolades and the credentials that Spence and Crawford have accumulated. Obviously, both being unbeaten American fighters certainly helps as well. I know Davis and Haney are unbeaten. Just got a little bit of nipple there from Dan Canobio. We've got to keep that off because we don't want to get demonetized. But yeah, Beterbiev Bivol, look, I think is one of the best fights in boxing. If it's not, Spence Crawford, I think that's right behind it. But they're two guys who don't have the profile of Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. Doesn't make it any less of a fight, but certainly as an event, I think Spence Crawford is clear of those. I'm thinking split decision either way, says Vincent. Yeah, take a look at that and big up Bet365 every time. Get your Spence Crawford odds at Bet365. Charlie Woolard, shout out Rob T. Big up Charlie Woolard. One of the best young journalists in Britain, not just boxing, not just football. Charlie Woolard can give it to you any which way you want. What is both men's best career win? Very interesting question from Dr. Dracop. I actually did a top 5 wins for Terence Crawford, so you can check that out on Boxing News. Don't know if it's gone live yet. I'm jet lagged and we're running out of time. But I actually went with Victor Postel for Terence Crawford. Might be somewhat controversial, but at the time, Victor Postel was an unbeaten world champion who just knocked out Lucas Matisse, competed at the top level for many years after that loss to Terence Crawford, and nobody, certainly while Victor Postel was anywhere near his prime, handled him quite as well as Terence Crawford did that night. I thought that was Terence Crawford's best performance of his career. For Errol Spence, I think there's a strong case for Yordenis Ugas, his last performance being the best of his career. If not, probably his win over Kell Brook coming over to Sheffield. I know people will talk about Gennady Golovkin and the fact Brook came down from 160 to 147, but it was still a very good Kell Brook in that fight, and Spence had to work a lot of things out as the away fighter coming over to the UK. So I think probably one of those. Just trying to, the 505, let's go, Rob. Shout out Shiesty every time. Everybody check out the 505, doing really cool bits in the boxing scene. Bruce Wayne, Rob, this is a very cool concept. Should do this for all fight weeks. Yeah, we're trying, mate. We've had to think a little bit on the fly this week, so maybe not going to be doing as many lives and as many kind of bits to camera as we potentially expected. But thank you very much. And don't forget to hit that like button, everybody. If you want us to continue doing these lives, then we're going to need to make sure they hit some decent numbers. And we'll be doing that by hitting that like button and subscribing to Boxing News. The press conference will show today, right? Yeah, about an hour. Do you think we'll see a Spence versus Crawford trilogy? Let's be happy with the first one. I mean, if we can get 2, fantastic. If we can get 3, I mean, provided they're good fights and we're not just having them because they make money. And, we'll kind of, by the time the third fight comes around, kind of Canelo Golovkin-esque, there's already kind of a set out winner before. We don't want to see that. But let's just be happy that there's one. Rob's hair got the McDonald's sponsor with that M Heller. I know it's bad, mate. Like I was thinning out, and then one day I thought just sort of buzz cut it. So yeah, the shout out McDonald's every time. If McDonald's want to sponsor me, mate, I'm all for that, as you can see. So yeah, the McDonald's hairline is a subliminal marketing strategy for me. Okay. Can't wait for the weekend. Massive fight. It is a massive fight. After Inoue's statement win earlier this week, is the winner of this pound for pound number 1. Depends on how they do it, I think. If Crawford wins by stoppage, here we go.
Oh, it is hot.
Here she is, Cynthia Conte, joining us here on the Boxing Show. Joining us live, Cynthia. Always a pleasure to catch up. It is very, very hot here in Las Vegas. Can I get a bit of a fan?
This is why people like to stand by me, because of my fan. How are you guys?
We're good, thank you. We're good. Yeah, we're just starting to feel like fight week now, isn't it? We've kind of had the grand arrivals, we had the workouts, but today I think them being up on stage together, getting that face off is starting to really get the juices flowing for me.
I mean, finally that, they were very, very, they're still very respectful. Sorry, I have some mints in my mouth. But there's some fighting words in there, but they say it so nicely. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna stay undefeated in Las Vegas. That's what Terence Crawford said yesterday. And Errol Spence is like, I'm gonna knock him out. Like, it's just gonna be bad. But they say it was so nice with their, their accents or just. There's not a bad blood, but it's bad blood. This fight has been brewing for years. It's almost like a mythical matchup at one point, and now it's finally coming down. But I'm really sad that there will be a loser. That's a sad part.
Not what about the draw?
You know what? I'm gonna bet that. I'm betting that. I don't know what the odds are on a draw. I know people will be very upset because then it's going to reinforce a rematch, because the rematch clause doesn't mean that if one wins, they have to give the other a rematch. So that's what a lot of people don't understand, but they're making a ton of money.
Yeah, I think for me, like with regards to the draw, or with regards to any result, I think we just want to see, if somebody wins, I want to see them get it. like we all love a bit of controversy, but what the Sunday can't be for me is just a war zone on Twitter where everybody's like, we want a definitive winner of this fight, don't we? We still want it to
Yeah.
be competitive, don't want it to be one-sided, but we want whoever wins to get the hand raised, and enough drama in there and enough
Yeah.
competitive that we can look forward to a rematch, but we want the right man to win on the night.
It's true. I mean, we've seen this not too long ago, a week ago. It was a competitive match. I mean, the scorecards were trash. Basura, 117, 111. But hey, it always happens. Something always happens. But it has to be a decisive win. Either someone's going to get knocked out. But if it goes to the judges, I do not want to see a trash card. I will be so upset.
Storm the ring.
Yeah, I will. I don't know where I'm sitting, but I'll throw popcorn. I don't know what I'll do. But boxing deserves so much better, especially when these two men, always any man or woman, put their lives on the line for them to lose a fight that they shouldn't have lost, or vice versa. So this is, judges, do better. That's all I'm going to say. Be better.
You've been warned. You don't want Cynthia Conte coming after you.
God,
I'm
no.
telling you now.
The wrath of Cynthia is going to come after all, especially because we're in this heat, in the dead heat of Las Vegas. And I have to, for professional reasons, I got to look like this on top of cam. Y'all don't understand. You guys don't have to do this.
No, I'm very much a casual dresser. Even
And by the way, first off, I want to say how much I love your guys' channel. I love you guys when you come out to fights. I haven't obviously been to the UK just yet, but I love your content that you've been pushing out. Congratulations on your merge with Boxing Ed, I believe.
Boxing News Ed.
Boxing News Ed.
Got some water
I mean, you guys are. I got some
Only the
fun.
finest here,
Agua.
yeah.
Well,
There we go.
cheers
Cheers
to Fight
to
Week.
Fight Week. There we go. But no, thank you very much, Cynthia. Thank you.
I know.
One thing that I wanted to talk to you about, I got a bone to pick with you.
What did I do now?
Well, you apparently were responsible for building up Errol Spence in the media and making him something that he's not. Now, what have you got to say to those accusations from Bomac?
First of all, I just asked a question to Bomac, and Bomac responded by blaming the media. So if people don't know, I asked Bomac, what is the one fight or any fights of Spence's victories could show that Spence is the fighter, is an all-around fighter, and that's a Spence we're going to see against Crawford fight night. His response is like, none. I said, wow. In my head, I'm like, none. And he said he has accomplishments. He's a good fighter, but he hasn't fought the way that he doesn't deserve the accolades. And the reason why Spence he's won and become this person is because it's media. We created this quote unquote monster. Oh wow. I'm like, wow. And he blamed me. I had to edit that out because he's like, you. I said, me. I didn't do it. But he's like, you are media. And I said, yes. And he goes, well, yes, all of you guys made this guy into something. And I'm thinking, he's won and he's fought against the odds of a car crash and I mean, but hey, to each their own. I didn't think it would be that crazy, but I thought it was just, I was in shock. I was like, you know what? Let me put this out there. Let the media did its thing and the fans did its thing. And I had to get a response from Derek. And I don't like to do responses well, what do you think?
Said, she said,
I hate that.
I hate it,
but I'm like, I'm friendly with both camps, and I'm like, Derek. And Derek is very soft spoken. And I love both Errol and Derek's response. They said that he was, we don't like negativity. Spence said, I'm going to use my negativity, that negativity, and fuel myself. To be fair, cool. And Derek, same thing. But Bomac is Bomac.
Well, look, I mean, whether we've built Terence Crawford and Errol Spence or either or up, I think it's worked out quite nicely for them.
Absolutely.
They're making a nice chunk of change this weekend, so I think we've done our job.
Yeah, I mean, I would, we should get some of that chunk of change because we helped it. I mean, I hope it helps sell a lot of pay-per-views. But to be fair, I think the coaches really don't like well, I'm not gonna say Derek, but I don't think Bomac really cares for Spence, period, based off his answer. But at the end of the day, they're getting their fight. May the best man win. And all I ever ask for is to be safe and healthy and go back home to their families. That's all that matters. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said. Right, Cynthia, it's a very, very busy day here, so I'm not going to keep you for too much longer. But before I let you go, have you got an Errol Spence, Terence Crawford prediction?
That's like so tough. I go back and forth. That's the problem. It's really a true 50-50 fight because these fighters are complete fighters. And at the end of the day, I think it's not about who's game plan, because I think whoever is going to make a mistake and the other capitalizes, that's where they're going to get the edge. And I don't know who, because they're both nasty fighters. They both have power. They're both very skilled. They're both great boxers. Terence Crawford is an excellent switch hitter. So, and Errol has fought against both. So that's not going to be a problem for me. But I want to see who's going to bring out the really nasty and gritty. Like, they're going to bring out the dog in him. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, well, seeing as you're on the
Wait,
fence.
what's yours?
I lean ever so slightly towards Errol Spence. Ever so slightly.
Like a knockout?
No, I think decision. I think it will be close, but I think Spence will get off to a good start. Crawford will kind of adapt and adjust, have some success in the middle rounds, and then I think the last few rounds will be nip and tuck. And I think, as much as I've kind of said I don't want it, I think Sunday morning we will get some people talking about, oh, well, I had it this and I had it that. And that's fine, because we like a little bit of controversy. You can get 12-1 on the draw, by the way.
Well,
So,
okay, I'm gonna
plus
go.
1300.
Yeah, I'll just go to Park MGM. I don't know. Just if it's I don't know betting, but I just know if you.
So that means if you put $100 on, you get 1,300 back.
That is not too shabby.
Not too shabby at all.
That will buy a pair of Louboutins again.
Okay, well, Cynthia, thanks very much for stopping by ahead of Spence-Crawford today.
I know.
Always a pleasure to see you. It's been a long time. It's been 4.5
I know.
years.
I haven't seen it, but you see, it's been long, and you look great. I'm happy you're in much better health. The pizzas I see you eating, my God, it's like the size of this table. I was like, you need to stop, mister. And then you got back on your skinny and sexy self with your salad. I watch your food.
Yeah, I only post like it's kind of like misinformation. I post a few salads and then get the giant pizza. But, I've got like a store of photos that I think are going to be healthy today. But thank you very much.
Well,
Always
no,
a pleasure
thank you
to
guys,
see you.
and I thank you guys for taking or having me on your show. Love you guys. I can't wait to come visit the UK whenever that ever happens.
Well, you're welcome anytime, and you're certainly welcome anytime on Boxing
All
News.
right,
So Cynthia Conte,
stay cool.
Thanks very much for stopping by. Okay. Bye-bye. We're just working out what we're going to be doing here. They're going to be opening up the press conference shortly, so we are going to have to adjust. We're going to have to change slightly. How are we going to go about it? Are we going to? So I'm just going to talk to Ben while we're doing it. Are we going to? Do we want to put that on a light stand and you take the thing through, or are we going to just bring everything down, or we take everything down? Okay, yeah. So we've probably got 5 minutes maybe. When's it opening? All right, okay. So yeah, we've got 3 minutes or so. We will be back later joining you live, but we do have to get over to the Spence-Crawford press conference so we can film it, so you can all see what happened. So make sure that you tune in by getting a lot of interesting messages here. Cynthia Conte, a good friend of mine. Thanks very much for stopping by, Cynthia. Bigger up. But yeah, check out Boxing News, of course, later for all of your Spence-Crawford press conference footage. Where's Barry, says Dan K. Barry has landed in Las Vegas. The big man of Sin City has arrived. He should be here fairly shortly. We'll be doing some sort of live or some sort of production at some point. I think a live boxing show after our Spence-Crawford preview show, which we filmed last week. It was an hour and 45 minutes and it was scandalously deleted. So yeah, we will definitely get something done with Barry Jones. Big up Barry Jones every time. But we are going to have to wind things down slightly here ahead of the press conference starting. So if you've got any further questions before Ben savagely shuts us down over there, he's a real party pooper, he's going to spoil everybody's fun and take everything down, then do get those questions in now. Rob, who of the current era can stand with the legends, e.g. Inoue and Pacquiao? I don't know. I think like Pacquiao, what Pacquiao did was not normal. 8-weight world champion and one of the greatest fighters of all time. So I think that either one of these guys, Spence and Crawford, still have a little while to go before you could realistically put them in the same breath. Doesn't mean that they wouldn't be competitive with Pacquiao, but Pacquiao is at his pomp at 147 was something of a phenomenon. So I don't think either one of these guys necessarily stand with Pacquiao. I think Inoue is well on his way. I think the winner of this fight is well on their way and kind of has a claim to being the standout fighter of their era. Along with that, I think people like Usyk, obviously Canelo Alvarez, those guys are kind of bona fide legends of the sport. but I don't know how we're getting on here. We've got Sean Porter, who's just arrived behind us. Don't know if we can squeeze Showtime Sean Porter on here. Then we'll try. I think Ben will let us carry on for a bit of Sean Porter. Please keep hitting the like button. Please keep trying to push the live out, because we will be coming back on to do a live afterwards, and it helps with the algorithm. So YouTube says, people like Boxing News' lives. Let's push it out to more people, which is good for us. So hit that like button if you can. Rob, seen any big celebs or heard of anyone coming on set? No, not really, man. It's obviously quite an American fight, so people could tell me NBA this, NFL that, and I'd have no idea who they're talking about. So yeah, no idea, unfortunately. Ask Tris Dixon for good bets. Yeah, he had his betting show for Pro Box. Make sure you check out Bet365. Shout out Bet365. Got all of the latest and greatest odds on Spence-Crawford. Make sure you gamble responsibly, of course. When the fun stops, stop, all of that good stuff. Usyk is pound for pound. Had to go up 30 pounds in weight for heavyweight fight. Pound for pound, literally in the name. I agree with you, Carl. Or at least I did so until Naoya Inoue jumped up to 122 pounds and ran through the number one guy in the division. But yeah, for me, Usyk being outweighed by Anthony Joshua is significant. I think we're trying to squeeze Showtime Sean on, but I think he's a man in demand. He's a popular man, Sean Porter. Heard Barry hit the strip club. I prefer not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble. Take Ames. Hello, Rob. Hello, Eamon. In your opinion, how does the Spence versus Mayweather fight go, and how does the Crawford versus Mayweather fight go? Prime versus Prime at welterweight. Mayweather decision in both instances. I think stylistically, Crawford is potentially a harder fight for Mayweather. But I don't know. There was kind of a long-standing theory that Mayweather, who was, of course, unbeaten throughout his whole career, but that he struggled or didn't like boxing southpaws because of the Philly shell and ducking into the left hand and whatnot. But yeah, I think you'd have to go with Mayweather by decision in both instances there. Is Barry bringing a life-size Andy Clark cardboard cutout? No, it's a shame that Andy Clark can't get out here. Big up Andy Clark each and every time. One of the best broadcasters, one of the best people in boxing. As, of course, is Barry. Don't want to leave him out, my Welsh mate. But he'll be stopping by soon, so hopefully we can get something done with him. And Andy Clark's always with us in spirit. Big up Andy Clark. Okay, right. I think I'm getting the eyes here. I'm getting the look to get out of here. So I'm going to vamp for a little while longer. If you have any other questions pertaining to Spence-Crawford, let us know before we wind things down and move over to the press conference. Maybe we can go live from inside the press conference. We just need to get set up because it can get quite feisty in there. Yeah, people can start throwing down, elbows come out, and then before you know it, man, people are swinging around tripods like David Hay in Munich all of those years ago. Andy Clark is best mates with Sean Porter, isn't he? I'm not sure, mate. RJ, big up RJ every time. Welcome to the States, brother. Enjoy the week. Thank you so much. It's been 3.5 years since I last came to America for Wilder Fury 2. I've waited very, very patiently, and this was one that I wasn't really looking to let slide. So I've missed out on a lot of boxing in the last few years, but this was one that I was always going to make it over for. Cynthia's now convinced Ben to help her with her text. I think we've got a couple more minutes, guys and girls. So if you have any other questions, shoot them over. I'll do what I can. I'll try and give you some sort of insight. Unfortunately, I don't have an esteemed guest who actually knows more than I do, which is pretty much everybody that we've had so far, but I'll do what I can. Just trying to go through. I'm going to scroll back up and see if there is anything that I have missed. What are we thinking, Ben? We're gonna have to wrap it up. I think what we might be able to do, guys, so stay tuned. I think we might be able to come down from here, go there, and then maybe start up live for half an hour more. Give you the feel of everything as it just starts to build up, and then we'll cancel things. Ben's nodding, so that's a good sign. Ben, the tech wizard, always going to keep us where we need to be. Can't believe Dixon been to Vegas 71 times. Yeah, I know, mate. It's mad. Absolutely mad. Tris is a real boxing man. I've got a lot of time for Tris. Big up Tris Dixon every time. Right, I think we're about there now. Ben is starting to look at me like he's about to do some serious damage. We're literally leaving now, but if you want to do something when we get over there, Danny, the main man from the Boxing Voice, one of the best beards in boxing as well. If you've not seen it, look forward to that. Prediction for Crawford Spencer. Oh, come on, man. I don't know, man. Let's get the first fight out of the way. Come on. I hope it kicks off. Yeah, me too, Alan, but I can't really see it, to be fair. Okay, I think that's all we've got time for here from the media room. We will be coming live At other points, this was a little bit ad hoc and we had to kind of think on our feet. So thank you to everybody who's joined us, who's hit that like button, who's put in questions for us to ramble our way through and listening to me do my best Ray Flores impression and fill some time. How much do you think Spence will weigh during the fight? I would not be surprised at all if he is. I mean, he'll be a super middleweight when he gets in there. He'll be over 160 easy, 13 pounds coming up from welterweight. I don't think that's going to be any problem at all. Big up Rob Tebbutt, shout out Pidge every time. Gary Roberts Mog, thank you very much. But we are not done by a long way here in Las Vegas. It's just getting started. You can just start to feel that big fight, feeling that anticipation building here in Sin City. But from me, Rob Tebbutt, from the main man, Ben Faruqi, bringing you all of the tech guru wizardry here from Las Vegas. We're going to catch up with you shortly, live and exclusive here on Boxing News. It's not exclusive, but anyway, live on Boxing News from the Spence-Crawford press conference. So stay tuned and we'll catch up with